guys, drum roll. I am super excited to have joining us tonight is Jennifer
Bichanich.
I just said, how do you pronounce your name again? So Jennifer Bichanich. And so I want to introduce you guys to her. Jennifer and I met, really was Jennifer, myself, and my husband back in 2018. Was it in Orlando, Florida? And Jennifer and I stood together and we were holding hands as we were, I can't remember what we were doing. Were we praying? Were we meditating? I can't remember.
It was the ceremony. Yeah.
It was the closing ceremony, right? And so, and since then, Jennifer and I, we've just really connected over and over and over again. And so I have found her to be such a wonderful person. While, Jennifer always reaches out, while my mom, and she knew that we were grieving my mother, she would reach out. She did, and just to check to see how I was doing. And so grateful for that. Hey, Miriam is joining us from Florida, and Evelyn is watching. And then also, guys, again, let us know where you're from. Even on Facebook, can you guys let us know exactly where you're watching us from so we could just give a shout out to you. Anyway, getting back to Jennifer. So Jennifer is a dreamer, guys. And one day, just out of the blue, she texted me and she had a dream about me, and she told me that dream. And that dream was so profound. And I knew exactly, what she was speaking of. And it was just really a dream from God. And that wasn't just the only, I think you've had a couple of dreams, but also Evelyn is joining us from Milton, Delaware. Hey, Ev, are you back? Are you back in the great state of Delaware, Evelyn? So Evelyn Graham, we aren't related, but we have the same last name. Haven't seen her in a long time. Yay, if you are back, welcome back to Delaware. And then of course, Jennifer is also a speaker. She's a writer. I like to say she's a person that really wants to empower women to pursue their destiny. She is always smiling, very soft-spoken. And one of the stories and I'm going to allow her to share it, is back in 2015, Jennifer's husband transitioned, and she'll tell that story. But she talks about her journey since then, which is just phenomenal. And when she shares it, it's just so encouraging, so encouraging. So guys, I just want to introduce to you Jennifer right now. And Jennifer is just going to speak. Our topic tonight is examine yourself. How are you living? Are you living by design or by default? And if you have not read my book, Why Stepping into Purpose, then you want to get the book. But we're going to talk about what does it mean exactly to live by design or by default. Hey, Terry. We'll be speaking about that, because I think in the times that we're living in now, it's so important for us to really look and really examine ourselves and make a determination. How are we living our life? I like to now call it that dash. We have our born date, and then we have the day that we transition. And what are we doing in between to spread love, to spread positivity, to spread the love of God, to help people become their best version of themselves, to help people heal. And that is one of the reasons I wanted to ensure that Jennifer came on tonight. So Carol is joining us from Toronto. Terry, where are you from? I know it's Delaware. I'll just ask anyway. But so Jennifer, I'm going to let you share some more about yourself, and then let's just begin to have a conversation.
Great. Thank you for inviting me to join you tonight.
Thank you for coming.
I love how we met at the Lisa Nichols event in Orlando. And for me, going to that event, not knowing anybody, was part of me stepping into my purpose. Yeah. And what Esther didn't tell you was that night we were standing in the circle. I had met her husband, John, the very first day. And we were standing in the circle. I'm like, yeah, that must be Esther. And I remember she slipped her shoe off. And then when I saw her in June, and we were talking the last day of the conference, and then it clicked. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're Esther, and you were wearing a Calvin Klein shoe. And I remember that because I was wearing a Calvin Klein dress. So it was just really a beautiful thing how when you're stepping into your purpose like that, there's going to be little signs along the way, little things that stick out that like, why do I remember, her shoes? Well, it's because I was destined to meet with her and talk to her. And after the event in June, we met up again in August at the Speakers Mastermind. And it just getting on that plane and going to Orlando was huge. It opened so many doors for me, and I met so many amazing people. Yes. So thank you for inviting me to join.
It's funny that you said that, Jennifer, because when we were holding hands, I just remember thinking, oh my gosh, this lady is tall, because guys, Jennifer is tall. But I took off my shoes because we were in shoes all day. And I just remember thinking, wow, she's just so tall. But she was so memorable, just that smile and warmth. So I just wanted to add that. So yeah. That was our first time going as well. And that was a big move for us as well. Yeah, it was.
It's amazing. Yeah. So, yes. And thank you for that wonderful introduction. And that was huge for me because that was 2018. And it was 3 years prior that I lost my husband and my home. I married my husband in 2013. And then just shy of our second anniversary, we had a terrible tragedy. We actually owned an old Lutheran church in Wisconsin. It was a wood frame structure built by German immigrants in 1893. And we had restored it, and we used it as, it had sat empty for a number of years. And my husband used it for an architectural studio. And then we also had family and community events there. We'd put a lawn table down the aisle and have 30 people sitting there. And then there's Jesus right at the head of our table on the altar. Yeah. It was so beautiful. And on August 21st of 2015, we were getting ready. My nephew was supposed to be married there the following day. So it was just all decked out to celebrate. The grounds were beautiful and in full bloom, and flowers were up in the church. And I left to go to the reception hall. And my husband just happened to be there alone, and he was going to take a nap. He wasn't feeling well. And as soon as I got there, my oldest sister called me, and I answered the phone, and she said right away, "You have to come home. The church is on fire." And I was in shock. I couldn't believe my ears. And my brother was there, and we hopped in his truck, and he drove cross country. For any of you who've been to Western Wisconsin, it's beautiful rolling green hills and trees and farmland. And we go over this big hill, and then in the distance, I can see the church with the flames coming out and the smoke billowing up in the air. And I got there, and I was immediately greeted by a sheriff. There were firemen all around. And the sheriff was standing there asking me all these questions. Was your husband a smoker? No. Is there anybody that doesn't like you? No. He's trying to figure out if he's still in there, how the fire started. And in the meantime, all I could think of was, I didn't get to say goodbye. We didn't get to have a honeymoon. We didn't get to have children.
Just 1 second, guys. I think
everything we had planned to do, we won't get to do. And I found that I was suddenly, are you back? I found that I was suddenly a widow, just like my mother was when I was 7 years old. So as I watched the church was going down in flames, it was like this huge wall went up, and it's like, okay, now what next? And I found myself in a place where I didn't really have a desire to live. Not that I necessarily wanted to die, but I didn't really want to live. I didn't care if I wore a seatbelt. What was I going to do with my life? And so day after day after day, I went to the church property where we had the fire, and I would dig through the ashes. I was looking for all my memories. I was looking for my husband, some little piece of hope. I'd go back at night to my mom's farm, sleep in my childhood bedroom, have ashes under my nails and, soot up my nose. And one day I was laying on my bed, just staring at the ceiling. And I had this vision in my mind, and I saw this purple piece of paper unfold, and it said on there, "You have to try."
It's good.
Got up, I found a sticky note, and I wrote on it, "I am loved." And I put it on my mirror. And as Esther said, it begins with love. And then I wrote, "I am blessed." And I put it on my mirror. And I continued, "I forgive. I receive." And then I thought of Job, the guy that lost all his kids, lost his wife, lost his sheep, had all the boils on his face. And what did he say? He said, "Blessed be the name of the Lord." So I put that on a sticky note and I put it on my mirror. And I knew that even if I couldn't feel that love of God right now, even if things were so dark, I knew that deep in my heart that it was true that God still loved me and that there were brighter days ahead. And that was a turning point for me. That was when my journey went from being a journey of search and recovery to search and discovery.
Oh, I like that. From search and recovery to search and discovery. I like that. Yeah. Talk to us a little bit about that, Jennifer. Search and recovery to search and discovery.
Yeah. It was like little by little, the light started coming back into my life and into my eyes. And there'd be like a little clue here, or a little clue there. And, I'm so fortunate for my family and friends that I have. They were encouraging me and cheering me on along the way. There was about a year after my husband's death is when I actually started going to therapy, which was huge. You talk in your book about finding a mentor, a coach, a community.
Mm-hmm.
That is essential. You need somebody around you that can see the vision for you that you don't have yet, but God knows. So that's so important. And for me, I found that the therapy I went to was actually art therapy. So I found a way to express my grief and what I was going through. And that's really a key too, is honoring your grief and expressing it. Because I mentioned earlier, I'd lost my dad as a child. And I remember saying to my therapist, I'm like, I feel like I have this big bag of grief over my shoulder. I don't know what to do with it. And she said, "You feel it. You feel it." I'm like, really? I mean, it was just like this novel idea for me, but it gave me permission to feel it and express it. So I have to say that one of the blessings that came out of this whole experience was once I processed the grief from losing my husband and my home, I was able to process that grief from losing my father 40 years prior. And I like to say there are blessings in grief. You have to be open to receiving them. And God says, "I will give you beauty for ashes." And he means it. He means it. And for me, I feel some of my greatest treasures are the relationships I have. Meeting people like Esther and all those other people I met just by getting on a plane and going to this Lisa Nichols event. So,
It's amazing. It's amazing because you said that there's a blessing in grief, and sometimes it's hard for us to see the blessing in it, especially when we're presently experiencing it.
oh,
You know what I mean? Yeah, and to realize that wow, that that you went from search and recovery to search and discovery, meaning to discovering who you are, to begin to get on that road to discover your, let's say, your next purpose. You know what I mean? And why I love that the scripture that says that God works things out for our good, and I like to say the good, the bad, and the ugly.
right.
The sad, all of those things he works out for our good, and only he can do it. You understand? Only he can do that. So
Absolutely.
that's pretty powerful. That's pretty powerful.
And you mentioned in the book the seasons of purpose.
Yeah.
This was a season I had to go through to find my purpose. You know, I didn't choose to lose my husband and my home and
Yeah.
my father, but again, that scripture, knowing that God could use it for his good to bless other people, gave me hope.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, because that's really, what is it? The winter season of your life, when you lost your
Oh,
husband, you lost your home, and sometimes that winter can last, a long, a long time, with
yeah.
glimmers of spring in between, right?
Mhm.
Yeah,
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 that's a perfect description because I live in Minnesota. So winter, you could get a beautiful sunshiny day in March, and then you still get a couple more blizzards that come in. And it's like that with
yeah,
grief. I think, okay, I finally got to this point and I'm feeling good. And then there's a little something like, oh yeah, I've got that to deal with now too.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
yeah, when we think of it as a season, it's like, okay, it will eventually become spring and summer again. That's just a
yeah, yeah,
beautiful analogy that you used.
yeah. What's also amazing is that sometimes, not sometimes, I don't, all the time. Like, winter is not my favorite season. I know some people love winter. They love the snow. They love that it gets really dark early. They love all of that. I personally, I'm not a lover of winter. And but whether I love winter or not, just as in life, winter happens. It just happens. And so I have to now, when winter comes, I have to do the necessary things, or take the necessary steps to get through my winter, right? So talk to us, Jennifer, about the necessary steps that you had to do to get through that winter season in your life.
Um, well, when we think of winter, we think of going inward, staying inside, putting on a cozy
Hmm.
sweater, cup of hot chocolate with marshmallows. So it's really about going inside and saying, okay, God, what do you want to show me here? Even like sitting
Yeah,
down with grief and saying, okay, you're here. Thank you. Now tell me what I need to learn here. And
yeah,
I was thinking about the Psalms today and how, you know, David had great Psalms of praise, but what about those where he was running for his life and fearful? That couldn't have been
yeah,
done for him, but we can look at those and say, wow, it's not just me. I'm not alone in this. Other people have gone through this too. And that
yeah,
gives us hope and inspiration. And then we can see,
yeah,
people
yeah,
are further on the path and how they've grown, and we can look to them for help. I just wanted to mention, we were talking earlier about the importance of mentors and community. Another thing that I found that really helped me was an organization called Modern Widows Club. And it's
hmm,
an international organization that mentors and supports widows. They also do advocacy on behalf of widows around the world. And they have local chapters in the US, and they're opening more around the world. And then they're also doing a lot of
yeah,
virtual ones because of COVID. But it's really a wonderful support community,
yeah,
faith-based for women. It's a wonderful thing to walk in a room and they just automatically know what you're going through. The journey is different for everyone, but there's still this understanding
yeah,
that it's a life-changing event. So
yeah.
having your sisters around you is so important.
Yeah. Yeah. So as Jennifer is speaking, guys, she's speaking where she, lost her husband and her home. But during this time, so many of us are experiencing loss different areas of in different areas of our lives. And so some of us, it could have been death to a relationship.
Oh, that's
Um, of course, a child, just uh, debt to a job. You just lost a job. You've lost a good friend. There's so many areas of our lives. I think especially now, it seems to be compiling. Just one thing after the next, simply because we're not out like we are normally out. We're not surrounded by people like we normally are. We're not able to go out and enjoy or go on vacation should we choose to do that. And just we're not able to go out without a mask, just different things like that. And no matter, no matter how you feel about the mask or not, the bottom line is we are just not, let's just say that there's death to the life as we knew it.
Absolutely.
Right? Because even when we return to somewhat we're not going back to that life that we had before. And so, how is it then can we move forward and can we deal with that? How can we do that?
I agree with you 100%. It's like the whole world is grieving right now. And this is something.
Yes. Yes.
And, certainly some of those things we talked about earlier, but one thing you mentioned in the book that I thought was fabulous is your powerful 30, the 10 minutes of prayer, 10 minutes of scripture, and the 10 minutes of prayer or meditation. And this is something you can apply whether you're a widow, whether you lost a job. You're a human being, you should be applying this. For the praise music, I often, when I do it, I listen to instrumental hymns. I grew up in a church that sang a lot of the old hymns. So that takes me back to a happy time in childhood and like the love of the people around me, my family, wonderful minister. So that helps to lift my spirits and think of something brighter. And, hear those words play in my mind of God's greatness.
Yeah.
And this, go ahead. Were you going to add something?
No, I was going to say, no, I was agreeing. Yes.
Okay, yeah. And the scripture, what are you feeding your mind with? It's easy, and I'm guilty of it, to scroll. But we need time to pour something into us. And then the third was the prayer or meditation. And God says, be still and know that I am God. God still has that plan and that purpose for us. You mentioned in the book from Jeremiah, I know the plans I have for you. And when we can get still and quiet, that's when we can hear those plans, when we can see them play out, and we can just sit and rest in peace.
Yeah, that's right. Give me a second, Jennifer. Dr. Robin is able to get on, so I'm just going to add her real quick. Hey, Dr. Robin.
Hello.
Hello. Can you hear us?
Hey.
You've got some.
Can you hear me?
You've got some feedback. Yes, but you've got some feedback. Maybe there's another device that's on.
Okay.
Just check your feedback for a minute. Yeah. We'll continue the conversation while you check your feedback.
Okay, let me check. Hold on.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, good.
All right, great. So can you guys, one of the things I want to kind of backtrack, better. Yeah, better. One of the things I want to backtrack, Jennifer, that you said, nope, not better. Maybe if you mute it or put headphones in.
No.
That's okay, guys. This is life. This is life and technology. So we grow and learn. Put headphones in.
Well, yeah.
Hold on. Wow.
Yeah, the new computer wouldn't work.
I'm gonna take you off for a minute. I'm gonna let her fix it while we finish. So you talked about you have to speak to grief. And I think that's important to say that we have to learn how to speak to our situations.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And that's so important. I'm going to try and bring her back on again. Are you good now? Yeah. So I'm taking you off for a second so you can fix the background.
Sure.
I'm going to take you off for a minute okay? All right. Don't go anywhere though. Don't go anywhere.
Okay. Yeah. I think that's very important to say, what do I need to learn here? I found myself where because of the fire, I had so much paperwork and stuff to dig through and process on top of the grieving.
Yeah.
And I remember going, oh my gosh, I am just such a procrastinator. I should have this done. And then finally one day I'm like, okay, procrastination, what do you have to teach me here? And the answer I got back was, your heart needs time to heal.
Yeah, so important.
Be gentle with yourself. What you call procrastination is the time you desperately need. And it's so important that we watch the words that we speak to ourselves.
Yeah.
I remember a time my friend was staying there, and I got up in the morning and she had done my dishes for me. And I was so touched by that. I started to cry. I'm like, oh, I'm such a loser. I can't get my dishes done. And she said, hey, don't talk about my friend like that. I thought, oh my gosh, I wouldn't talk about my other friends like that. So why am I saying that to myself?
Mm.
And we need to love ourselves as we are.
Yeah,
So
just as we are. Yeah.
mm-hmm.
What's amazing about that is that God loves us just exactly how we are. He's not asking us to fix anything about ourselves. He says that, listen, I created you and you are perfect just the way you are. Now, of course, there's things that we have to work on, but we could always say that God loves us just as we are. And I love it because we do have to speak to our situations, because what we think about, we talk about, and what we talk about, we bring about. So what you speak into the atmosphere, that is exactly what you're going to bring into your life. So if you're speaking negative things, if you're speaking things that are, when your perspective is half empty, or you're speaking that you're a loser, you're never going to make it. And that's exactly what's going to happen. I'm never going to release the weight. Then that's what will happen. And so even in those little things, as I'm going to kind of switch it a little bit, even onto those little things, as we're looking at if we're living our life by design or by default, right? Mm-hmm. Design meaning because from the day that we were born, even from the very conception, God designed our lives for us. Mm-hmm. We're created by design. It's not an accident. It's not a mistake. We are created by design,
And he said, I knew you before you were in your mother's womb.
Oh, yeah, I knew you, which means that in his mind, in his thoughts, in his heart was already a Jennifer and an Esther and a Valerie and a Kiki and a Carol and whoever else is watching. It was already there. Right. And so we have to make a decision how we're going to live our lives. Are we going to live it by design? And design is something that we really have to work on figuring out, because what I have discovered for myself is that there are so many times that I was not living my life by design. And while right now, I'm going to say that I'm mostly living by my life by design, I still have a ways to go, but I have my default moments where it's like, oh, I'm in default, or I'm slipping back into default. And that default area is where there's not an intention. And so one of the things that I find is that when we're beginning to heal in our relationships, again, no matter what areas we need the healing as a mother, a daughter, a sister, a spouse, healing is something, it's a process. Sometimes people think, oh, I can be healed like that. Excuse me, not necessarily. No, at least for me. I find that even now, there's still things I'm being healed from.
Oh,
right? And something you said is that you went back and you thought to yourself, because we do this, my husband is gone. I've lost my husband. Well, it's just like when I lost my dad. So you still had that lingering. And so you put the two together.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so many times we do that, and we hold on to those negative things. And we could never really come into, let's say, in the season of purpose for our lives to where we can now begin to see where the road is going up, no matter what's going on around us.
Yeah. Yeah, that healing is so important. And, I didn't realize that I hadn't healed that grief from losing my father, that I've been carrying it around for 40 years. And
Yeah,
looking back, I could see how that fear of loss affected so many areas of my life.
yeah, yeah.
It stuck pretty close to home because that was playing in the background. So, yeah, that healing is so important.
Yeah, it is. It goes back to our subconscious or even that inner child. There's a lot of
Mhm.
things that we experience right now. There's a lot of things, and we're so, would the word be oblivious to it,
Mhm.
because it's been embedded in our subconscious. And
Uh-huh.
because our subconscious, the first and primary job is to keep us safe, right?
Yeah.
Anything that looks outside of that, we're going to hold on to that because we're just, we're just in fear. We don't, we're scared to move forward. And so that's why it was so easy when this happened to you in your adult life. You went back to when you lost your dad, because while it was tragic, it was still a safe space than to know the unknown and all of the hurt that you were feeling right there.
Mhm.
Does that make sense? I'm not sure if I'm
Yeah.
making.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
familiar. It's like, "Oh, this is happening again. Somebody left me without saying goodbye."
yeah, yeah,
And after
yeah.
such a short period of time. But, you know, um, when I was able to heal that grief with my father, that's when things switched with how I saw him. He died suddenly. Nobody expected he was gonna die. He was 46 years old, but
Yeah.
he had been ill quite a bit of his life with diabetes. And, so my childhood memories of him were laying on the bed with his feet hanging over the edge because he was tall like me.
Yeah.
And it was like once I had that switch, I could see him for the brilliant, talented, faithful, loving man that he is. And there's a line in the book, "When Breath Becomes Air." The author was Paul Callum. I might pronounce that wrong, but what he wrote of his journey with cancer, and he died, and his wife Lucy ended up finishing the book. And she said, "What happened to Paul was tragic, but he was not a tragic man."
Hmm.
And it could have been so easy to get stuck on that fire, with the church going down, everything, and how my husband died. But
Yeah.
it's more important, rather than talking about how that loved one died, is talking about how they lived.
Yeah.
And, you know, my husband, even though he was in my life for such a short time, he showed me what pure unconditional love was. And I am
Yeah.
so grateful for the time we did have together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. I think one of the lessons that we can learn from our conversation tonight as well is that we cherish our loved ones. You
Yes.
know, we really look at seeing the positive in them, um, and to really hold that close. So Dr. Robin is on, she's online, but what we're going to do, so stay online, Dr. Robin, because guys, what we're going to do is bring Dr. Robin back on where you can see her on another night. But however, what I'd like to do is if anyone has any questions for Jennifer right now or any thoughts, even Dr. Robin, stay on because you could put your thoughts and your inputs as we're in the comments and I'll read it. Again, guys, remember that this is a dialogue and not a monologue. So if you have any questions, make sure you're asking the questions. Ask anything at all, and anything that you're liking, you agree with. Go ahead and and heart it up on Facebook and say, hey, this is really great. So we're talking about you know, being grateful. And part of being grateful, that's a part of that living by design, let's say. And it's hard sometimes. I know for me, it's hard. It's hard when someone has got on your nerve, or, sometimes things aren't going exactly the way you would like for them to go. It's hard to be grateful. How do you work out gratefulness in the midst of everything? Like with the pandemic right now, how can you work on being grateful right now?
You know,
talking to the expert.
I've had many nights where I couldn't sleep. And there's this thing I say to myself, it's like, I'm grateful for my toes. And I start praying and thanking God. I thank you for my toes. I thank you, for all 10 of them, for the arch of my feet, for the heels on my feet. And I work my way up, and I'm usually asleep by the time I get up.
Yeah.
But it's, grateful for the air I breathe, being grateful for those little things all around you. We are so blessed and so blessed by our natural resources in this country. We truly are. And that we can have these conversations. You're in Delaware and I'm here in the Midwest, that we communicate like that. So I think that is, you maybe can't be grateful for the situation, the time you're in right now. Okay, we'll start with something. Grateful for your toes,
Yeah. And that whole grateful piece is, again, that's also a part of living by design. If you can just find that small thing to be grateful for, you know what I mean? Like during this time where it seems to be just a little rough, what is it that I can be thankful and just grateful for? How can I show appreciation in you? How can I live my life in design mode right now instead of reverting back to default mode? Am I making sense? Yeah.
You mentioned in the book, when you raise your gratitude, you raise your altitude. Or gratitude raises your altitude.
Yeah.
Something you mentioned earlier about cherishing those around you. I encourage people, have a conversation about death with your loved ones.
Yeah, that's good.
What do you want from me? If I were to go first, how would you want me to live my life? Or, to the survivor, how would you want me to live your life? What are your hopes and dreams? If you have children, write them a letter. I love you. Thank you. This is the beauty I see in you. And we can stop and face our fears about death. That's when we really learn how to live.
Yeah. That's true. When we face those fears, that is how we learn how to live, because fear is an obstacle to stop us from pursuing our dreams. It's there to stop us from living our best life right now, right? It's there. Fear is an obstacle. And when we see it as an obstacle, then we can begin to really live out our lives. Some of us, we have simple fears. I'm afraid to go here. I'm afraid to go to the grocery store. I'm afraid. And so don't be in fear. Dr. Robin said we can also show, we can show that by also celebrating ourselves. Exactly. Because anything that is celebrated is repeated. Anything that's celebrated is repeated. And the first thing that we have to do is learn to celebrate ourselves. I mean, that's really what Festa della Donna is built off of. It's a celebration of women, and maybe I'll change it. It's a celebration of human beings, because it's about celebrating me first. Once I celebrate me, I can celebrate you. And when I celebrate myself, I even celebrate many times those mistakes I made, because it's the mistakes that I have made that has helped me to grow.
Absolutely.
Right? If you find a person that's not made any mistakes on anything, then they probably haven't grown very much. Or if they can't admit that they've made a mistake, right? Then they really can't grow very much, can they? So Robin said that we're taught so much to serve others, but we forget to serve ourselves. That's it. I think too, what's good about that, Robin, is that Jennifer kind of connected that earlier when she said as well that she had to begin to look at herself and begin to speak to herself and really begin to say, right, in my words, that you're worthy. You know what I mean? And we are taught, to serve. You had to begin to, in those ashes, as you're moving those ashes away, begin to see yourself and begin to serve yourself. That's why you ended up at Lisa Nichols. That's why you ended up with a coach. That's how we met, because there was a service of, we saw, wait a minute, in order for me to begin healing, I've got to serve myself first. there's just no way I can heal if I don't first look at me and really begin to say, Jennifer, Esther, what can you be healed from?
Yeah.
Right. And so we can do it on purpose. Robin, she's like, oh man, I'm missing this. She's saying chapter 2 made me do it more. Passion wakes up. Hold on a second. I put my glasses on to read, guys. So Dr. Robin said, she's talking about the book. In chapter 2 of the book, she says, it made me do it more. Passion wakes up. So her passion was awoken. What am I doing? And I guess, honestly, guys, the book is really about, for me, it was really about realizing that I needed to do more. Even writing the book took me a long time because I kept picking and picking and picking until someone said to me a long time ago, Matt Gill said it. And then, and then and then my husband kept repeating it. Version 1 is better than version none. Version 1 is better than version none. You know what I mean? And so really fulfilling your purpose and doing that. So I'm just going to write a couple things that she said, but we're going to have her on again. She said, catapulted me to a different level. Can I just reiterate real quick here, Jennifer? Robin, for years, Robin and I have known each other since I first came to the United States. Her family met our family at the airport. Right. And so we've been friends for years, and I'm not going to age us, but we've been friends for a long time. And Robin has always been an artist. She's a psychologist right now. Psychologist, right, Robin? Right? Or a psychiatrist? Which one is it? She's a therapist. And Jennifer, so she writes books. She's just gifted, just kind of like you're gifted, but you really didn't step into your gifts till some things happened, right? And say, whoa, I need to walk in my purpose. I need to step into my gift. I need to do what God has created me to do and to walk this out. So Robin says, she says, you said it in the book to put on your mask. Yeah. So you gotta step out and do it. So what I love about this conversation, as we're talking about, because I think healing is living by design, as we're on the road to healing and how we heal after a loss, is that what I hear, and just from talking with Jennifer, is that a lot of what you're now doing really did not come about until after you experienced a loss in your life. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah.
And you brought up in your book that importance of taking action. And that was the part that was missing in places of my life. It's like, well, God's going to show me what's next. Or that fear of loss, well, I don't know if I want to try that because it might not work out. But take that step.
Take that step
and trust that the path will light up as you go. And that's such an important piece, what you included in the book about the action part.
Yeah, definitely. Because when you think about it, faith is an action verb. I mean, it's a verb. Sorry, it's a verb, and a verb is an action. So you've got to take some level of action. And can I just say right here, so listen, for me, it's God. It's God all day long. I don't know what it is for you. I had someone that I was talking to, and I was explaining to them the powerful 30, and they didn't go to church. They didn't do anything like that. So I said, well, try the powerful 30 and play whatever music, whatever inspires you, whatever makes you go. And they said to me, well, I listen to rock music. I said, oh yeah, hard rock. I said, okay, that inspires you. They said, yeah. I said, okay, now I couldn't get with it, but I thought, okay, if that's what inspires you. You see, the key here is that we move from where we are.
Yeah.
We move from where we are right now. We take some level of action. It could be a needlepoint move. It could be a baby step. It could be a micro goal. And it doesn't matter, by the way, how old you are. Right? It doesn't matter how old you are. It just doesn't matter how old you are. You could be a teenager. You could be in your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, your 60s, your 70s, your 80s. My mother was 95 when she transitioned, and she didn't really stop doing things until she just could not move out of that bed anymore. Then she made everybody else do it for her. You know what I mean? But do you understand? And so it doesn't matter. Never allow your age, never allow your circumstances to stop you. Robin says sometimes in the church we're taught to just be humble, but you can be humble and strong, bold and extraordinary. Balance is the key. Definitely. You can be. You can be. You can be. I'm just
add to that.
Go ahead, Jen.
We're so used to saying, oh, somebody compliments us. We say, oh, it was nothing, or we just kind of pass it off. But that was something I really learned at the Lisa Nichols events, is to say,
me too.
I received
it. Yeah, I
received.
I'm still working on it. Yeah.
Their words are a gift to you. And if you just like, it was nothing, that's almost like you're not valuing what they're saying to you. So receive.
Yeah, just receive. And then the good part about saying I receive is that many times we have to look to God and say, I receive.
Mm-hmm.
When he's saying, I want you to walk through this, or I'm knocking at your door. I'm knocking. Open it up. I'm not asking you how old you are. I had that issue. I'm like, I'm just too old for this. I just need to sit on the beach somewhere and relax, but I'm knocking at the door.
Yeah.
You understand what I mean? I'm knocking at your door. And so he's saying, all I want you to do is just step through the door. That's all I want you to do. So it doesn't matter your age. For some of us, life is just beginning. Well, not for some of us, for all of us, life is just beginning at whatever stage you are, and you choose to walk through the door.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's how you can really honestly begin by living out your life by design. You may have your default moments. I still have my default moments, but I don't have my default extensions, where they're, you understand what I mean? Yeah. Sometimes you're like, it's like, but you step. Let's see. Let's see. And Robin is a psychotherapist, guys. Actually, Marianne Williamson said, our greatest fear is that we are powerful. A powerful God leads us. We just have to say simple words. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. That's powerful. That's all we have to say is, okay. Okay. So what I would like to do, guys, and chapter 5, sorry, Robin says in chapter 5, my Lord, what does chapter 5 say, Robin? We're going to have her on. Valerie, while Robin types it, can you put in Jennifer's information about the widows?
Yes, and if anybody would like to reach me, if what I said resonated with them and they'd like to have a conversation, they can reach me at jennifer@jenniferbichanich.com, or Instagram is Jennifer Bichanich.
Yeah.
I had a note on chapter 5 too. I had to look at my notebook, but change is non-negotiable is what you wrote in chapter 5. Yeah. And so often we fear change. At least I did.
Yeah, I do too.
But if you're not changing, then you're static and you're not moving, and that's the Walking Dead.
Yeah. The worst thing is to be stagnant and not move. The non-negotiables, the no matter what, I'm going to get through this. No matter what, I'm going to move. No matter what. And I think that quite honestly, we all go through that all the time, and we just have to make a decision that we're going to have some non-negotiables. We're going to have the no matter what, and we're going to have those times of fears. We're going to have those moments of default. But as long as we keep moving and we give ourselves grace and ease. Yeah, grace and ease. We're not always going to have perfect day. Today was not a perfect day for me. It was like a day of, it really wasn't, But to try to stay focused so you can keep moving. Here's I'm going to show where you can get a hold of Jennifer, modernwidowsclub.org. And then Val, if you can also put Robin's information in there, although we'll have her back again, but still put her information. And Robin says it's dysfunctional not to move. right? Or not to grow. Wow, it's dysfunctional not to move or not to grow. One of the things, Jennifer, that Dr. Robbins said to me after my mom passed away, she was there and she sang at her homegoing. And we had a conversation afterwards. And she said, Esther, people will tell you to move on, or, things will be okay. And they expect for you to kind of be the same. But she says, but you're not the same.
Right.
She said, you're now a woman or a little girl, because I really felt like a little girl that lost her mother. She said, but you're now a little girl who doesn't have her mom anymore, or her mommy. So your life will never be the same. It is forever change. And that is such a relief, to where it's okay if I feel this way.
Yeah.
It's okay if I don't want to do this anymore, because I'm not the same person I was before my mother passed away. On the day that she transitioned, I became a different person.
Yeah.
Now the decision is up to me. I have a choice. I have a choice.
That's right.
What will I choose now as I live my new life? COVID-19 is here, or has been here. How will we choose? Because I want to live an abundant life. I want to cross that comma, because God said, I come that you might have life and have it more abundantly. Many of us have life, but we don't have abundant life because we choose not to cross the comma. And abundant life isn't money. I'm talking about whole life. That no matter what I'm going through, no matter what, I'm still going to walk through. I'm still going to do this. I'm still going to experience peace and joy. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely.
So did you find that you were no longer the same? You were just a different Jennifer. You're not, your husband is transitioned, but you're no longer the same.
Oh, absolutely. I feel like, because I did the work and worked through this, I feel like I'm now more true to who God called me to be.
Yeah.
I feel like
I love it.
I have loosed some of those shackles that I had put on myself, the self-judgment and the worthiness. I am at most peace I've ever felt in my life. Do I miss my husband? Of course. He was a beautiful, wonderful man. But, my faith tells me the hairs of our head are numbered, and God has a plan and a purpose in that. Because of Christ, we know we will be reunited.
Oh, yeah.
So, yes, I feel like I'm a different person, and I share my story because I feel that there's other people out there going through something similar. Whether it is a death of a loved one, death of a job, COVID, and they need to know that it's possible to rise back up from those ashes and move forward. And, when I look back, I read some of the stuff I wrote 5 years ago, and I am so proud of myself for making it through. That was the one that wrote, I didn't feel like I wanted to die today, just die, or maybe sleep. I'm not that woman anymore. I wear my seatbelt now, and, there's turbulence on a plane, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not going down. God's got plans for me, so I'm okay.
Yeah. That's right. The plan. It's normal to grieve, but there's something called healthy grieving. And when I think about healthy grieving, I think about that's a part of living God's plan of design, since He designed us from the get-go. I have really enjoyed this conversation. We're going to have Dr. Robin come on again. Jennifer is saying, hey, Jennifer. Jennifer is saying hi to Jennifer.
Dr. Robin mentioned in her comments, it's okay to be upset with God. And I agree. And there were times I was a little upset with my husband, when you're trying to find all this stuff and, yell at them, it's okay, let it out. It's healthy to give yourself permission to be mad and work through that pain. And God still loves us.
Yeah.
That's what created us with these emotions. So yes.
Yeah. It's okay to be upset with Daddy God, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, that's great. Juicy conversation, guys. Juicy conversation. I love it. I love it. I love it. I am so appreciative that you guys have. Jennifer has come on. Dr. Robin was having technical difficulties, but we're going to get it all worked out, and we're going to have her back on again. Please connect with Jennifer, especially if you've just lost a loved one or you've just experienced a loss. Again, what I love about Jennifer is that. She's walking in her grip. She knows who God has created her to be, and she's walking that out. And so I love it. She's not only a dreamer, but she interprets dreams as well. Correct? Am I right?
Yeah.
Yeah. She's saying it quiet.
Meaning for their life. They're one of the gifts God's given us. Look at who happened to be one of my favorite Bible stories, and it looked like life was bad for him, and look at how God used him. And
look how he used him. That's right. And so then there's always hope, right?
Always hope.
There's always hope. You're never out, down and out. There is always hope. You just have to make a decision. You are always in choice. And remember that. You are always in choice. And you can make a decision of whether you're going to see that glass half full or if you're going to see that glass half empty. And if you're struggling with seeing the glass half empty, then reach out. Reach out to someone and say, hey, I need help. I need to talk. I need something. I just need a safe space where I can breathe. And so we want to make sure that you can do that. So we're going to reschedule Dr. Robin so you guys can actually hear, because she's got a lot to say, a lot to offer. Just like Jennifer. Jennifer, thank you so much for coming on. We will definitely be having you back again. And guys, her information is posted there. And of course, listen, I want you guys to follow me on my website. You can connect to me through my website at www.fddwomen.com. Val, if you could put it in there. And I have my blog. You can also get my book from the website, or you can also get it on Amazon, which is Why Stepping into Purpose. I'm super excited because soon I will be doing a 7-day Facebook Live on health and healing. So Jennifer, expect to hear from me again.
Right.
And of course, yeah, I'm super excited about that. I'm super excited because mark your calendars, lady, March 14th, the week of March 14th will be our retreat. It's going to be our health, healing, rejuvenation, regeneration, renewal, everything in our retreat. And Robin is going to be joining us there, and Nikki Cervantes will be joining us. And so I am, and I have others that will be joining us as we bond together and heal together, as we just heal together. That is something that is promised to us. It's just a promise. God wants us to be healthy. He wants us to heal. He wants us to be happy. And I don't know about you guys, but I want it too. You know what I mean? That's one of my non-negotiables, is to be healed, happy, and healthy, right? In every area of my life. That's my relationships. That's my spirituality. That's my finances. That's what else? Whatever other areas of your life. It's in all of those areas. So I'm super excited. You'll hear more about that. I just want you to mark your calendars right now. Also mark it for March 6th, as we're going to celebrate International Women's Day. I know this is all 2021, and I know it's going to happen, but I'm just letting you know right now so you could put it on your calendar. And let's see what else. Pretty soon, my online course and my webinar, my boot camp, if you want to call it a boot camp, I'm not calling it a boot camp, on God's plan for you, is coming up. And so we'll be launching that soon, Jen. I've been working on it. And so I've deep dived into it. And now I feel as if it's the time to drop that. So that'll start in November. So you guys will be hearing about that. See, I've been doing stuff, right? So I've learned. Jennifer and I have been together about 3 times, has it been? At least? Oh, she froze. But anyway, yeah, I think we've been together 3 times at different Lisa Nichols events, which has been phenomenal. So anyway, guys, I love you. Take care. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your week. And remember to live your life on purpose. 365 days of purposeful living. Connect with me. Let me coach you. Let me help you to achieve the next best level of you. All right. Take care. God bless. Bye-bye.